I arrived at my late husband, Mason Brooks' secluded farmhouse, expecting nothing more than silence and old memories. He had passed away only a few weeks earlier, and I finally felt ready to visit the property he had always insisted on managing by himself. Throughout our marriage, Mason rarely spoke about the farmhouse. Whenever I asked, he would simply smile and say it was his quiet place to clear his mind. I never questioned him because I trusted him completely. That trust shattered the moment I unlocked the front door. Instead of finding an empty, dusty house, I stepped into a home that was clearly occupied. Fresh flowers decorated the dining table. Shoes were lined up neatly by the entrance. Children's toys covered the living room floor. And family photographs of strangers filled the walls. My heart started racing. The only explanation I could think of was that my husband had been living a double life. Every terrible possibility rushed through my head. Had he secretly started another family while I believed we had the perfect marriage? Before I could process what I was seeing, footsteps echoed from the second floor. A woman slowly walked downstairs holding the hand of a young girl. She froze the moment she noticed me. Seconds later, two more women appeared with several children standing quietly behind them. None of them looked dangerous. Instead, they looked terrified, as though they expected bad news every time someone came to the door. I demanded to know who they were and why they were inside my house. No one answered, and their silence only made me angrier. I reached for my phone and announced that I was calling the police. Before I could dial, an elderly man hurried through the front door. His name was Harold Bennett, the caretaker Mason had hired years earlier. Harold begged me to wait before making any decisions. He explained that the women living inside the farmhouse were not trespassers. They were survivors who had escaped abusive relationships. The farmhouse had never been a vacation home. It had always been a secret shelter where women and children could hide until they were safe. At first, I refused to believe a single word. Nothing about the situation made sense. Mason had never mentioned anything like this during our marriage. Harold quietly led me into Mason's private office and handed me a wooden box with my name written across the top. Inside were letters, photographs, financial records, and legal documents dating back almost 15 years. As I read through them, my hands trembled. Every page revealed a side of my husband I had never known. The first letter explained everything. Long before we met, Mason's younger sister lost her life after years of domestic abuse. She had tried to escape several times, but never found a safe place where she could start over. Her death devastated Mason and filled him with lifelong guilt. From that day forward, he promised himself he would He secretly purchased the farmhouse and partnered with lawyers, counselors, charities, and local law enforcement to create a hidden safe house. Mason wrote that keeping the project secret from me was the hardest choice he had ever made. The fewer people who knew about the location, the safer every family would remain. He never wanted me to feel betrayed. He simply refused to risk innocent lives by exposing the shelter. Every word in those letters made me realize that his silence had never been about deception. It had always been about protection. Harold introduced me to every family staying at the farmhouse. Each woman shared a heartbreaking story of fear, violence, and survival. One mother escaped with only the clothes her children were wearing. Another arrived in the middle of the night after years of abuse. Listening to them changed everything. The toys scattered around the house no longer looked suspicious. They represented children who finally felt safe enough to laugh and play again. I soon learned that Mason personally paid for groceries, school supplies, counseling, legal assistance, and medical care without expecting recognition. He regularly visited the farmhouse to repair broken furniture, mow the lawn, and spend time encouraging the children. To those families, he was not just a generous donor. He was the reason they were alive. By the end of that day, every ounce of anger inside me had disappeared. It was replaced with admiration and heartbreak. I realized the man I loved had carried an incredible responsibility without ever asking for praise. His final letter contained one simple request. If I ever discovered the truth, he hoped I would continue protecting the people who still needed that home. I honored his wish. I never sold the farmhouse. Instead, I expanded the shelter, partnered with more organizations, and helped even more families find safety and hope. Today, every laugh echoing through those halls reminds me that Mason Brooks' greatest legacy was never the property itself. It was the countless lives he quietly saved, proving that the greatest heroes are often the ones the world never knows.